myself and my family, I think it was in '68 or 1970 era, my grandfather, which was originally from Marion County, came over and bought 525 acres on the farm that's adjacent to the one I bought. And to this day, he still says that he bought that farm simply for the quota and the rights to grow tobacco, be it in Marion County or Washington County. He came in and bought that farm for the rights.
So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel, rock me.
We grow what's called burley tobacco here in Washington County. All of central Kentucky emphasizes on burley production because of the soils that we have. The Faywoods and Lawwell soils, Shelbyville is a common series to central Kentucky, is ideal for burley production. In western Kentucky, they'll have a mix. Probably 40% of the farmers focus on burley, with the remaining 60% either air cured or fire cured production.
Running from the cold.
These were probably built in the late 50s, early 60s. At that time, I mean, there were thousands of these in this county alone. All of them are the same, basically. Only difference would be height in the center. I have hung some and had some rented that were 6 rails high. This one is 4. I'm guessing that's probably 25 feet tall, maybe, somewhere in there. What happens from here is the tobacco is put on a stick from the patch. This tobacco stick is then sent up one by one to be air dried in this barn. 90 days is kind of what we target air dry. We'll initially leave the doors open for as much air as possible. And then after it has dried down a small amount, we'll then close the barn down so that it'll cure in a slow, long process. That curing is actually the chemical component in which nitrosamine is growing into the foliage of the plant. And then that's the cancer-causing agent. That's the nicotine itself is growing into the tobacco itself.
Roanoke, I caught a trucker out of Philly, had a nice long toke.
In the 90s, a lot of the politicians were talking about how can we separate ourselves from tobacco production. And as tobacco producers, we had the right to grow it. So we worked with our politicians to defend that right. It wasn't something the federal government could take away. Outside of Kentucky, nobody else fully understood the idea of the buyout and thought that we should have just an end to the tobacco production. But the tobacco farmers understood that right had monetary value. So with the likes of Bill Clinton at the time as our president, and Mitch McConnell was also an advocate for the Kentucky tobacco producers, they were able to secure a tobacco buyout. I believe the year 2001 was the official beginning of the buyout. And all farmers that raised tobacco in 1999 and 2000 received compensation of $7 per pound of quota that they owned if they were the landowner, and if they raised it, they got an additional $4 per pound for the least quota.
He's headed west from the Cumberland Gap to Johnson City.
My father and myself, we opted to take the 10-year payout, which was the full $11 if you own the land and raised the tobacco. So we then took that and we invested in infrastructure. We increased our cattle numbers, improved our farm buildings, and then we also used that over 10 years to improve equipment and then to buy into other investments in enterprises such as contract right-of-way mowing to supplement our income.
Tennessee, I gotta get a move on before the sun. I hear my
The future of tobacco production is bleak, and I could say that because the need for it, the demand.
So tonight I'm gonna party like it's 1990.